Hello, everyone. Welcome back to St. Louis Teens. We are honored to have with us today United States Congressman French Hill from the 2nd District of Arkansas. Representative Hill, you serve on the House Committee on Financial Services and as the ranking member of the Subcommittee on National Security, International Development, and Monetary Policy, and are a member of the Subcommittee on Investor Protection, Entrepreneurship, and Capital Markets. We thank you so much for your service to our country and for being here with us today.
What a treat. It's great to be with you, and thanks for the invitation.
Representative Hill, can you tell us a little bit more about what inspired you to go into public service and how has your journey been like so far?
Yeah, well, thanks. I've always believed in public service. When I was a little kid in fifth or sixth grade, um, a neighbor of mine got me involved in riding my bicycle door to door for a guy running for governor then, Winthrop Rockefeller, who was running as a Republican for governor back in the 1960s here in Little Rock, Arkansas. And he was elected, and he was the first Republican governor since Reconstruction here in Arkansas. He was a reformer. He was an entrepreneur. He was a person who related to the ordinary, hardworking people of Arkansas. And that was sort of my first foray into admiring a public figure working for an election. And so serving in Congress now is really the ultimate awesome thing about public service in my career. This is my third time that I've worked in Washington, D.C. I worked for the Senate Banking Committee in my 20s, working for John Tower, who was a senator from Texas. And then I worked for President Bush 41 in my 30s and worked on his White House staff and at the Treasury Department. And then in my late 50s, got elected to Congress. But all along the way, I've believed in public service. Volunteer with your school, volunteer with your Chamber of Commerce, volunteer with your Boy Scout troop or another youth leadership type opportunity. So I really believe since I was just a small kid in the importance of every citizen being a public servant.
And now, can you share with us your most favorite part about your work now that you have been elected, as a representative, and your favorite aspect about our country?
Well, certainly when you get elected to a legislative job, and I've never been elected to a legislative job before. I've been a bank CEO, I've been a venture capitalist, I've been a financial analyst, I've been a bank executive leader. I've worked in the executive branch. So being a legislator is a collaborative job, just like being on a school board or being on a city council. And so you can only be successful in a legislative job by being what? Collaborative. And you have to work with people in your party and in the opposition party to do that successfully. And that's been a lot of fun for me because that's very different than being in business or being in the executive branch of the government. It's a completely different skill set and opportunity. Well, I mean, I just think that's one of the rewarding things of being in Congress is that collaboration with people from all across the country, different walks of life, who you find something in common with, you're able to advance a bill. The second thing that I found rewarding about this job is just working with people here at home in Arkansas, veterans, people who are brand new citizens, kids who want to go to the military academies. So when you think about the inspiration part of this job, the part that's so awesome when you get up in the morning, being the speaker at a naturalization ceremony at the federal courthouse, where people have spent sometimes decades trying to legally immigrate to the United States, and their whole family is there. It's such an emotional experience, and they're sworn into office. They get their copy of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, an American flag from the Daughters of the American Revolution. And it's just such a heartwarming experience. And likewise, I found veterans service the same way. We have about 55,000 vets in this congressional district. Wow. And helping them get their health care, get their services, because they have done so much for our country. Those are just examples of the inspiration I take from my job every day.
And I think collaboration now is more important than ever. And Representative Hill, your work has also been phenomenal in launching the Entrepreneurship Caucus, which you co-chair now. What is your vision for our country in terms of entrepreneurship, and how can policy help foster and expand entrepreneurship?
Yeah, what a great question. You know, when I got out of college many moons ago, 1979, if you look at the stock market in 1980, we have 50% fewer companies that are publicly traded in the US right now. So that means there are fewer choices to put in a mutual fund. There are fewer choices of competition. And that means we have fewer public companies as a percentage of all the public companies in the world, because we're an international world and we have to invest internationally, and business is international. So for me, the Entrepreneurship Caucus is to inspire young people to come into their own business environment, and grow that culture of the US, which is that self-starting business entrepreneur, whether it's starting their own heating and air conditioning business, their own restaurant, their own landscape company, or they've got a software as a service business on the cloud that they've just knocked it out of the park with. It doesn't make any difference to me. Everyone has that right to pursue happiness. And in our country, since about 50% of employment's with big companies and about 50% of employment or so is with small, medium-sized businesses, we want to make sure that we maximize opportunities for our young people to go into business. Secondly, what are the government barriers to business development, business growth? Are there barriers to being a public company now? You know, is it not really as economically rewarding or as successful or as easy it was back in 1980 to be a public company versus now? I can remember early in my career that if you went public and you raised, say, $25 million, that's with an M, $25 million in the public offering, and you had a market cap, meaning the total value of all your shares, of around $100 million, that was deemed a huge success.
Wow.
And the system was set up to help businesses like that go public and then be offered future rounds of capital when they needed it. And that's the story of everything from Walmart to many other business success stories. Now, you hear so many stories that if you can't go public and have a $1 billion market cap, and that initial raise is $200-300 million, that's an impediment, because there are not very many business models that manifest themselves that look like that. So I'm not against private companies and private equity backing companies. In my career, I did that for 5 years. I worked in a venture capital type environment where we raised capital and helped companies grow privately. But in each instance, when we were doing that, our hope was that we could take that company public and offer shares to the public so they could share in the future growth of that business. So the Entrepreneurship Caucus is bicameral in the Senate and in the House, and it's bipartisan, Democrats and Republicans. And we are passionate about making sure the federal government doesn't dampen entrepreneurial instincts of our citizens.
And you talk about some of those hurdles that we now have to overcome to become an entrepreneur. I think being a teen entrepreneur myself, I see some of those hurdles that one has to navigate, such as getting an LLC or a business bank account. And given that the number of teenagers starting businesses has increased 8-fold in the last 10 years, and the majority of most successful entrepreneurs today have started their ventures prior to the age of 18, should the legal age to conduct businesses be changed?
That's such a good question. And in the states, so many of these laws are set by the states. And, you know, to be, I think when you're 16, you can have maybe some aspects of bank accounts in certain states. But there've been a lot of proud parents that have helped their brilliant kids get started, as long as they get a little piece of the action, you know, on the back end. But yeah, I think we should make it easier. In fact, I did a call this morning with the Conductor, which is backed by the Kauffman Foundation, a great source of entrepreneurial resources and spread of the gospel across our country. And we talked about talking to high school audiences about their opportunities to create business and grow and expand with both with their high school education and education beyond high school, and the idea of apprenticeships and mentorships for those students. So you're right. And states ought to be sensitive to that and look for ways to make it as easy as possible.
And Congressman, through my social initiative, helping those fight homelessness start their own businesses, it's evident that entrepreneurship is very rampant in the unhoused community. People have tried several ventures to make any income. How can policy help and support those fighting poverty and homelessness through entrepreneurship?
Yeah, a good point. And we're so blessed here in Little Rock. We have such a good, solid, hardworking community that helps lift our homeless community up and help guide them to transition of shifting back into society successfully, no matter what the cause. It might be the sudden loss of a job or a divorce or just down on luck. It doesn't always have to be a chronic, as you know, chronic homelessness where you have alcoholism or disease or behavioral health issues is one category. And we are very sensitive to that and help them, our fellow brothers and sisters. But a lot of homelessness is triggered by a life event, a terrible divorce, trying to shift back from incarceration due to a mistake of some kind. And what I love about our resources here is we have healthcare and mentorship care all the way from that recovering alcoholic all the way to that temporary homeless that we try to get them shelter. We get them children's health care. We get them workforce. We have a preschool. We have a wonderful preschool for them if they have young children. And I think that manifests itself in our house, which is one of our great nonprofits here in Little Rock, including anticipating homelessness, which is, gosh, if we can spread that word that if you think you're a month away from being homeless and let people in the faith community and the nonprofit community help tackle that with you, we can save a lot of drama. And I've enjoyed seeing the success of that workforce effort and that connecting of people with career and job. Goodwill Industries here has gone from sort of being an okay player, certainly a great grassroots player, to being a regular educator, soft skills trainer, job placer for so many folks that are down on their luck. So every community is a little different. I'm glad you're interested in that area. And all people need is that, I think, a combination of transition planning, right? Housing, a plan to get some of the trouble behind them, and then that mentorship and skill-based work.
And I think it's so incredible that Little Rock is that great community that's able to support each other when needed and uplift others. And it's incredible when a community is able to come together to do that. And Honorable Congressman Hill, we also thank you and our Congress for your hard work during these difficult times in passing historic bills with historic amounts and at historic speeds to meet the health and economic needs of our country. How has the pandemic changed your life as a lawmaker, and what are the keys to your success in navigating solutions during these unprecedented times?
Well, you know, when I touched on legislating, I told you about collaboration. And when lawmakers are forced essentially to be at home due to the government and economic shutdown, our collaboration has been made more challenging, right? And so my hat's off to the work in Congress in March and early April and the executive branch coming together, a little bit of drama, but not nearly as much drama as we usually have, in crafting very specific emergency measures. because of my business background for 40 years and my treasury work, I've tried to help craft a better disaster loan program, making suggestions on how to improve those EIDL, EIDL disaster loans over at SBA, or how to make the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP program, more successful. And we've collaborated by Zoom, we've collaborated by phone, we've talked to the Treasury, we talked to our leadership, both Democrats and Republicans, and all along the way tried to craft bipartisan solutions to help kill the virus, the public health piece, and get our economy back up to full capacity. It's been hard, it's been challenging because of the virus, but every member of Congress has been focused on their district and trying to meet that collaboration point. We're at another key point right now where we're also trying to compel collaboration between the House leadership and the Senate leadership. I think the solutions are very obvious. I don't think they're complicated. I think they're being made more complicated than they are. But again, members of Congress are all back in their districts. They're not up there banging on the doors of their respective of their leaders. So we're doing a lot of texting right now this week.
And Congressman, you talked a little bit about your initiatives with education and youth and the importance of entrepreneurship in youth. And you're also actively involved with teens and youth in Arkansas through the Congressional Coding and App Challenge and the Congressional Art Challenge. So what inspired you to work with youth in your community, and what is one of the most memorable moments of your interactions with teens?
Well, first of all, I believe in life, you know, what goes around comes around. And in my teenage years, I had the loving support of a great mom and dad and a great pair of grandparents who instilled a good work ethic in me, but also let me look for my hobbies, you know, look for what drove me from a passionate point of view. And I really was interested in business in my teenage years. But I was also interested in being an oceanographer, you know, so I loved the fact that my parents gave me that environment. And both in Boy Scouting for my youth, I was exposed to good role models and stewardship and leadership. And I think that's what led me to be supportive of anything that engages with our preteens and our teenagers about what they're interested in. And what I like about the art contest and the app challenge is for about almost 40 years now, we've had the Congressional Art Competition. And every district attracts young high school artists. And their success is just unbelievable. I mean, when you walk through the Capitol corridor and you see their paintings up, it's so inspirational to me. And I think, wow, I mean, I couldn't draw a stick figure when I was a sophomore in high school, you know? And so I admire these people so much. And we have about 60 to 80 young people that submit that art to us. And so the Congress was inspired by that. So 5 years ago or so, maybe 6 now, they started the Congressional App Challenge and wanted to inspire kids that were more STEM oriented. And so it allows you to design a smartphone app, either using software and you do a prototype, or you can simply submit a design that is not a functional design, but a concept. And they allow both those to be submitted. And what I love there is, once again, you see kids engaging in what would make their community better or fill a need. Two pop in my mind. One was a smartphone app that connected the temp on your smartphone, the GPS locator service, and created a warning device on the heat in your car if you left a child in a child's seat in the back of a car and you popped in a store, which of course we're all trained not to do. But as you know, every year we have some tragic stories, you know, and it's horrible. So this phone app would alert you that the child was still in your car and the temperature of your car was over blank degrees. And, it's just a kid's innovative spirit thinking about how can I save a life? Another young man up in Clinton, Arkansas, which is a rural part of my district. It's a county seat. It's up in a beautiful mountainous recreation part of Arkansas. Lots of Missouri people come down to recreate there. And he did a survey of all the fire hydrants. Now, over the years in urban areas, people have put reflective tape now around the tops of fire hydrants. So in the night, the fire truck can find the hydrant using a light quickly. What he did was he plotted every one of them on the city map. True. But next he put the PSI pressure, the water pressure at each location, so that if it was a big fire, they would go to the hydrant with the highest pressure closest to the fire site instead of going to a weaker pressure, so they could connect the hoses faster. They knew where they were. And I thought, what a terrific common sense idea by a young STEM kid at Clinton High School. Isn't that awesome? So I'm always inspired by our young people. And as of this week, 50.1% of America is now under 40.
Wow.
And there are more of those Americans than in the big old giant baby boom generation. So I'm so excited about the future of our country, so excited about the innovation and spirit of our country. And those are just two programs that get me excited about our youth.
And both those stories are amazing. And I think they're a great demonstration of the vast potential that teens and youth have. And it's wonderful, Representative Hill, that you were able to connect your experience as a teen to working with teens now and encouraging youth now. And it's wonderful to see that. How do you think that more leaders and members of Congress can have those same interactions with teens in their community and develop rich and meaningful partnerships like the ones you have?
Well, I know so many political leaders and mayors that put an emphasis on connecting with young people, and I think it's very important. I think it's true in business too. You can't have a successful business if you don't know your market. And the critical aspect of any business, B2B or B2C, is what? Market research. You've got this brilliant idea that you think people will like. Will the dogs eat the dog food? And market research is so important to that, and trial and error and fine tuning your product. Well, for political leaders, they need to make sure that they're listening to all aspects of their constituency. The youth, young adults, people in middle age who are raising kids, have kids in school and are busy, very busy in their professional lives. And then our seniors that are facing a different set of issues as they think about retirement. And I think you best do that by having small groups that are representative and interactive where you can get good feedback. And in my congressional career, I've tried to do that in our community empowerment area for those helping the less fortunate in our community on every topic, from foster youth to homelessness, to food insecurity, to behavioral health challenges, to suicide prevention. These are all critically important. But we have a fifth grade group that we meet with 4 times a year. And it's true, I am not smarter than a fifth grader, I'm not sure. Jeff Foxworthy made it famous. But these kids, we come together 4 times a year. We talk about the Constitution, the foundation of our government, the separation of powers. They write a bill. They take an idea that's important to them and they write a piece of legislation. We talk about what committee it's going to be referred to, how it might advance. And that's a lot of fun. And then we have a veterans group that we meet with regularly, and teachers, superintendents. We really try to listen to that whole spectrum of citizens, and the youth are just as critical as anything, because they're reflective of what? Very reflective of what they're hearing in the classroom, very reflective of what they hear at home. And that's a different perspective than some more middle-aged political leader who reads the newspaper every day and networks with his or her network, right? And I think to be a successful political leader, you have to have perspective. And that perspective is not just the one you have embedded in your DNA, but it requires your listening to a lot of other points of view.
And now looking forward into the future, in your opinion, given the pandemic, what is the outlook, particularly for teens, and how can we be more prepared?
You know, every adult I know, every parent, every teacher, all have been so worried and empathetic and concerned about the last calendar year on our young people of every age, frankly. I have a rising junior in college, and I have a second year medical student in my family. And they're just as impacted as that high schooler who wants to play on the volleyball team or do cheer or participate in the yearbook or play football or be in their STEM club. And everybody is trying to adapt. But the human animal, tens of thousands of years of adaptation, this is actually what we're really, really good at. But we've had it so blessed in this great country of the USA that we don't really frequently all collectively, all 50 states, all ages are forced to deal with a great national emergency like this. So we're all in this together, but this is a great opportunity for kids to learn a lesson like, well, all the plugs don't work all the time. You know, we have first world problems and we have third world problems. And a health pandemic wakes you up to the possibility that everything in life is not just a pre-programmed success, that there are negative things that happen and positive things that happen, and sometimes many of them are not in your control. But the one thing that we have with our free will that we were given by God is, while we can't control other people or the way other people act or how other people respond, we can control how we respond. And so I would pitch to my friends in K through 12, you know, you're going to learn resiliency, you're going to learn perseverance, you're going to learn how to work around situations, you're going to learn how to thrive under these pandemic, uncertain conditions. But I hope you learn something that doesn't always come in America, and that's a little sense of humility, a little sense of empathy, that you might have broadband at your house, but you may have a classmate that does not have broadband. You may have food security at your house, but you may have a classmate who, one of who or both of whom parents aren't working right now due to the pandemic. And so there's a neighborhood community opportunity to learn in this pandemic: resilience, perseverance, but also learning that sense of humility and empathy with our neighbors. And so you sound like, from the work you do entrepreneurially and civically, that you have a good dose of entrepreneurial zeal, but a real sense of empathy for your fellow citizens. And I hope that's taught here. It's certainly not taught out on social media, and it's not taught on the television news. But if people will take a step back and recognize that together we'll come out of this bigger, stronger, smarter, more resilient, and actually able to tackle many more challenges in life. And maybe you could have graduated, seriously, think about this. You could have graduated from high school and then college in a pretty seamless way. I mean, if you're, you know, you could have, you know, had your schooling adequately paid for. You could have had teachers that were adequate or better. You could have made adequate or better grades. You could have had a wonderful, warm experience with your close friends. and roll right into your 20s, ready to go. Whatever life brought you, and hard work would lead you, I'm sure, to long-term success. Having this surprise is not pleasant or fun, and we've lost thousands of citizens around the world. But it will, I think, make us stronger in the future, and for our young people, more resilient in the future. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing to be independent, resilient, and have perseverance.
Representative Hill, we thank you so much for your phenomenal leadership and support of our entrepreneurs, our youth, and the value that they bring to our country and our future. And thank you so much for your time today and answering all of our questions.
You bet. It's been great to be with you, and thanks for the time. We'll see you.
Thank you.